As we head into the weekend, is there more good news coming for Indiana basketball or maybe some goody news?
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, and it's the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. Appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. Happy Friday. Appreciate you being here. Shout out to all my everydayers who are here each and every day, truly making this your first listen each and every day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I've got a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go now from the App Store or Google Play. Well, thank you again for coming here, making this your first listen each and every day. So many things to go over today. Luke Goode, the Illinois transfer, is on a visit today. It was yesterday on Thursday, today on Friday. We'll tell you how it's going, tell you how I feel about it, and just continue to tell you why I think he's a perfect addition to this Indiana basketball team. Plus, the Hoosiers have still held on to a top 5 portal class, kind of looking around, seeing what others are doing right now, and how the Hoosiers stack up to some of the bigger names in, I guess, other bigger names, I should say, in college basketball. And then, is Indiana a top 25 preseason team next season? I'm not a huge fan of preseason polls, but people keep talking about that we are. We keep climbing the rankings, so we'll have that for you today as well. Luke Goode, the Illinois transfer, is on a visit right now. As you probably watch this, hopefully watch this on Friday. If it's later, then the visit has already happened. But Illinois 6'7" forward Luke Goode is visiting the Indiana Hoosiers. And while he would come in and probably not be a starter, we've told you about how much of an impactful player he would be. His time at Illinois was really effective, and he brought a lot to that team. I mentioned 6'7" forward. Last year, he shot 39% from three on almost 2 makes per game. And his overall stats as a junior this past season at Illinois: 6 points, 39% from three, 65% from the free throw line, 46% from 2. So that could maybe go up a little bit. Averaged about a half assist per game, 3.5 rebounds. And he was playing 20 minutes a game, which is a typical bench player role, right? So he was bringing you some points off the bench, knocking down a couple threes per game. He was averaging 6 points and almost 2 makes per game. Makes sense, right? So he was coming in off the bench. He was grabbing you rebounds. He was shooting it effectively, and he was knocking them down when he had his chances. What else do you want, really, from a bench player that's not going to be, blowing you away with his handles or his defense? I think his size can help him in that category on the defense side. But you're not going to bring in a guy like Luke Goode and say, hey, man, we need you to be a superstar. We need you to be the next best thing here in Bloomington. That's not what we're looking for anymore. You've already found those guys. You've brought in your starters. You even have your 6th and 7th man probably. This is somebody you just bring in and say, man, we need a spark. We need a shot. We need a bucket right now. We're in foul trouble. We got injury problems. We need you to step in right now, Luke Goode. Go get a board, step down in the corner, and wait for us to pass you the ball. And when we do, just shoot it and knock it down. I know that's a lot to ask, but that's his role. And sounds like and looks like he's played that for quite some time, so he understands what it takes to do that. He understands that's what his role would probably be here in Bloomington, because that's what it was at Illinois. And some numbers that really, really impress me, that I really like, that are not maybe the most attractive, and something people might not look at, but something that stood out to me. Made multiple threes in 17 games this season. And this stat from 247, the Peegs.com site, Goode has played 76 Big Ten games this season, or at Illinois, with 7 starts. So he has played 76 games in the Big Ten. He knows exactly what he's going up against. The Big Ten's not going to scare him at all. Power 6 basketball, not going to worry this guy. You're not bringing in somebody who is at one of these mid-major schools or even a JUCO or anything like that, and they're like, wow, look at the size and speed of these guys. Not Luke Goode. He knows exactly what he's going up against. And while he's on his visit, I say it's this weekend. It's kind of at the tail end of the week, heading into the weekend. So far, so good from everything I've heard. And look, I've been telling you guys, I feel good about this. I think he likes Indiana. I think Indiana likes him. And as long as both sides understand what that role is going to be, as I was saying a few minutes ago, I think it's going to be a done deal. I really, really do. It just makes sense to me to bring in somebody like him. Now it depends on if it makes sense for him to come to Indiana and kind of play the same role he did at Illinois, maybe a little bit more elevated. We'll kind of see how the season and really the offseason shapes up to see if that's what Mike Woodson and the staff end up wanting to do. But no, I think it's going well. I think he's going to be here. If I had to drop a prediction on you this morning, I think it would be him coming to Indiana. So that's exciting, and hopefully that works out. And I've seen some of you on social media and other Indiana fans and people talking in this wild season of the transfer portal of college basketball, which seems to be one of the craziest ever, right? I've seen a lot of you say, man, I just can't believe we're going after an Illinois guy. I can't believe we're going after another Big Ten player. Like, oh, I'd never dream of going after an Illinois player. I know, I get it, but that's just the era we live in. That's the new world that we're in. And I mean, we talked with Andy Patton of Locked On College Basketball this week. You've got Ohio State guys going to Michigan. You've got Auburn guys going to Alabama. Like, you have rivals, the bitterest of rivals, transferring from one school to the other. And while we're not fans of Illinois by any means, I don't like Illinois. We're not trading with Purdue. This isn't us taking a player from the Boilermakers or anything like that. And look, that's just the world we're in now. And even if it was the right fit, okay, who cares? Let's make it happen. I'm not worried about it. It is what it is. And so Goode comes in, hopefully, if he does become an Indiana Hoosier. And as I said, he knows what the Big Ten is, and he understands what Indiana basketball is. He's from the state of Indiana. He knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's doing and he's dealing with when it comes to us crazy folks here in Bloomington and in the state of Indiana. So I like where this is heading. I like what Luke Goode would bring to this team. A good role player off the bench, can shoot threes. Hopefully that can kind of elevate the rest of the team shooting as well, or at least help the shooting numbers wise, and brings in some size. Hopefully his defense can elevate a little bit. Would love to see him develop a little bit more of a ball handling presence, but that may not be what he wants to do. And that may not be what Indiana wants him to do. But regardless, he's here right now as of Friday, and I think it's feeling pretty good. That's where I'll leave it as that with Luke Goode, the Illinois transfer visiting Indiana. Well, coming up on Locked On Hoosiers, we will take a look at the portal class rankings where Indiana still holds in the top 5, and to most people still hold that top spot. We'll take a look at that after this on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay's Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics, making this your first listen each and every day. If you're on the audio version, thank you so much for being there each and every day. Make sure you follow us on there, turn on notifications, hit the little bell so you never miss a new episode of the show. Also, for those of you on YouTube, numbers have been just soaring over there as well. Be sure to like this video, share it out, send it to your family, to your friends. Any Indiana fan that you know, they need to be a part of this wonderful family at Locked On Hoosiers, and you can become a part of it as well by hitting the subscribe button. It's free. It's easy. Just takes one tap. helps us grow, and we just continue to do that. I'll give you a live update on our subscriber number on YouTube, 2,354. Woo, man, I love it. I love it. We are surging towards 2,400. So keep them coming, folks. Appreciate you being here and becoming a part of the Locked On Hoosiers faithful. Well, we've talked about how the Indiana Hoosiers have just dominated the transfer portal this season, and college basketball is taking notice with Myles Rice, Kanaan Carlyle, Oumar Ballo. You're still working in the portal right now, are the Indiana Hoosiers, and it's pretty much a consensus that the Indiana Hoosiers have brought in a top 5 portal class. But what are we comparing that to? What has everybody else kind of done, and what are we really looking at here for this Indiana squad? Well, most places you look, I think that Indiana is still looking at a top 5 and the number 1 overall transfer portal class. And that's something that's a new thing. It's a new term. It's a new idea that's really come onto the scene the last 5 or so years with the transfer portal really becoming a big thing. And there are times where you don't want to be on the top of this list. I think football is a big part of that. But I think basketball is a little bit different because 1 or 2 players can change the entire team. It can change the program and the direction and the narrative around what's happening at your school and your city. Football, right, if you bring in, we've got 30 transfers coming in this year. Well, that's kind of a lot. And hey, Indiana football is kind of dealing with that right now, right? But that's a new coach, and that's kind of a different situation. But Indiana basketball, on the other hand, they just lost a lot and they needed a lot. And they said, you know what? We got to go get some guys. And that's exactly what they did. And they did it so well that they sit atop of the transfer portal rankings with Oumar Ballo, Kanaan Carlyle, and Myles Rice, number 1, number 10, and number 18, respectively, in the transfer portal rankings. And look, that's dominant, man. That's really, really good. And I don't have to tell you what that means for this Indiana team. And Mike Woodson and the staff are not done. They continue to recruit in the portal. They continue to go out and recruit on the high school ranks. And yes, there are still concerns with if Mike Woodson and the staff can coach them up to their best potential. That is still to be seen. I totally understand that. But just looking at it here in the late days of April, the roster's great. The class is great. But what are we comparing that to? What other teams are kind of hanging around up there that could take the crown from us for the top portal class, and also maybe some players that we missed out on, right? Looking at this ranking, and this is just from just some rankings on 247. They've got Kansas at number 2, behind Indiana, of course, at number 1, with AJ Storr, the number 3 player. We talked about him. Zeke Mayo at number 17, and Riley Kugel at number 86th ranked player in the country. And look, that Kansas team is really interesting to me because they brought in some big time guys, Hunter Dickinson and McCullough, who, obviously had the injury, and there's so many things going on with that Kansas squad. And well, Bill Self is kind of crazy to think about. He's one of the last man standing in terms of those, I guess, older school coaches. And it's so weird to say Bill Self is an old school coach, but he's been there for a long time. And all the other big name coaches that have been legends at their school, they're gone. They've left. They've either retired or they've gone somewhere else. And Bill Self is one of the few left standing. And let me say this, man, that AJ Storr kid is a really, really good player from Wisconsin. Just can do everything. He is just a pure scorer, man. And look, Indiana reached out. They tried. It just didn't really go anywhere. Kansas had a lot more to offer, I think, if you know what I'm saying. So he went to Kansas, and rightfully so. He's going to be a superstar with Bill Self. How about UCLA? How about the Bruins? And remember, this is now talking about a Big Ten school. So it is relevant to us here in Indiana because this is no longer a Pac-12 after dark game that we don't care about. This is a conference foe now with UCLA. They've brought in Kobe Johnson, the number 6 overall player in the portal. Eric Daly, the number 45 overall player. Tyler Billadu, I hope I pronounced that correctly, from number 50, the number 58 player in the transfer portal, and Sky Clark, number 71, a player I was really interested in as well. And Mick Cronin and UCLA were under 500 this past season, which is not what you're supposed to do at UCLA. And it's not getting any easier when you come and you're going to be joining a Big Ten conference that I think is going to be much improved this year. I hope it is. Goodness, it needs to be much, much improved. And here's what's crazy about their class. That Kobe Johnson kid, you remember him? Do you know that name? Do you know where he's from? He's from USC. So yeah, he just came across the road and now he's playing with UCLA, and that guy's a baller. Plus, you have Scott Clark coming from Louisville, somebody we talked about here on the show as well, about a possible target for Indiana. But you bring in a couple of big guards for them, they're going to have a competitive team. Now, I don't know what they're looking like, and I'll be honest with you too. I don't know if I'm a Mick Cronin believer at UCLA. I'm excited to get them and USC and Washington and Oregon and whoever else decides to come. I'm excited for them to become a part of the conference and for Indiana to play them and kind of have that a part of the now the football schedule and then the basketball schedule, whatever that's going to look like. I mean, it's going to get weird for a little bit. It's going to get kind of crazy, but excited to see UCLA, USC, all these other schools be a part of the Big Ten. I'm just not a Mick Cronin believer. I'm really not. And they're paying him a pretty decent amount of money, and they're wanting to win right now. UCLA is a historic program, and they haven't been relevant for a long, long time consistently. So they're trying to find their guy. I don't know if Mick Cronin's in at the head coach spot. That Kobe Johnson kid can play. Memphis is ranked number 4, which is kind of crazy. They brought in number 12, number 24, 175, and 210. I don't know, maybe kind of a stretch there for Memphis. But here's the other one I want to talk about. And this is a team we also talked about with Andy Patton earlier this week. How about the Michigan Wolverines? Yeah, how about those guys just over there doing some damage? Is Michigan and new head coach Dusty May, who I think is a really good coach and I think could really do well at Michigan, which does not bode well for us here in Indiana. We can't worry about that, but just keep that one on the back burner in your back pocket because Michigan is making some noise, and I think they're going to be much better. It's so crazy how bad they were this past year and how bad they've been the last couple of years. I mean, Indiana's taken advantage of it, thankfully, but man, that was just a failed experiment with Juwan Howard. They tried and tried and tried, and it just did not work out. I compare it to the Jerry Stackhouse situation at Vanderbilt. It just didn't work out, and they finally pulled the plug and said, all right, we got to move on. And Dusty May steps in, and I think he's going to have a hell of a team. And I think he's a great coach. And a couple of transfers to keep an eye on. Danny Wolf, number 19, Roddy Gale, number 48, Trey Donaldson, number 72, Sam Walters, 151, Reuben Jones, 236. Those top 3 that I talked about, Danny Wolf, Roddy Gale, and Trey Donaldson, those are some players, man. They instantly make that Michigan team 4 or 5 wins better, make them competitive in this Big Ten conference because of the scoring ability, the defense, and the leadership that they bring. Go look up those guys. Roddy Gale, Danny Wolf, and Trey Donaldson are going to make Michigan a competitive basketball team. And look, I know this may be a hot take, but college basketball is better when Michigan's better. It's better when the Big Ten is better. Can we just say that? Can we say that college basketball is better when the Big Ten is better, when Indiana's better, when Michigan's playing well, when Ohio State's playing well, when Illinois is playing well? Like when those teams are playing at their best, that's when college basketball is at its peak. And we need the Big Ten. Indiana, we need the Big Ten to be better because even if you start getting wins, you're just not being tested night in and night out like you should be. Look at what happened with Purdue. I mean, they even lost a couple of games in the Big Ten, and sure, they made it all the way to the title game, but I don't know if they had the dudes or really the track record to be there. And that's a Big Ten problem. Hopefully, some of these schools like us, Michigan, others, going in the portal, making their rosters better. Hopefully that elevates the play of the conference. And I think we need it, man, because the Big Ten can be the best conference in college basketball. It just hasn't been the last couple of seasons. And hopefully the transfer portal and folks like us at Indiana with the top-ranked portal class can make it better again. Coming up in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, people are saying we're going to be a preseason top 25 team. Yes, Indiana in the preseason top 25 already. We'll talk about that in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard, it's not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure if your team or you can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heists, and take as much of my friends' money as I possibly can. That's right. The smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. Play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. Make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. Charge other players rent for your iconic properties, just like in Monopoly. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put on your game face, and download Monopoly Go now from the App Store or Google Play for free. Final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here again, making this your first listen each and every day. Shout out to all of my everydayers. You're the reason that we do this each and every day. If you haven't already, like the video, subscribe to the channel on YouTube. With all these portal additions and the players that are coming back for this Indiana team, some folks are saying we'll be a preseason top 25 team. Now, let me start out by saying this. Preseason polls in the month of April, almost May, how much do they really mean? Not so much, not a lot. But it isn't for nothing. And the reason I bring this up is I'm not going to say, oh, we're a preseason top 25 team, time to get excited, hang the banner. No, that's not what I'm talking about here. Because you can't really rank a team based off of what they could be. Now, the media does it every day, right? That's part of what makes them so successful. But there are takeaways from that I think we can discuss here. And what I mean by that is, with Indiana being in most preseason top 25s right now, John Rothstein's got us at number 20 overall with his projected starting lineup. Are you ready for this? Rice, Carlyle, Mbako, Renew, and Ballo. Because I think that's what's going to happen here, folks. I'm just telling you, Rice and Carlyle are starting at your 1 and 2. I'm just letting you know. With that, though, what this tells me is they trust us. They trust what Indiana has done. They believe in what Mike Woodson and the staff have brought in so far. And not that we need their trust or we need their recognition or we need their stamp of approval, because we don't. But it is nice to know that people are noticing what we're doing. People understand what's happening here and believe that this season is going to be better for the Indiana Hoosiers, because I believe it too. And I'm still trying to convince a lot of you that it's going to be. Look, I don't know how good it's going to be. I don't think we're going to win a national championship. I think we have a roster that could compete and give us a chance to do that. I fully believe that. But those same questions still remain. But what I'm saying is, the media and those around college basketball are taking notice of what's happening here. And they understand what happened this past season. The fact that, yes, there was controversy and there was a legitimate chance that Mike Woodson was no longer the head coach here there for a second. He obviously is, and he kept his job. And even through all of that, look at what has happened through the transfer portal and through the guys that you're bringing back. This is a competitive roster. It's a really good team on paper. Now, you have to find out how all that's going to mesh, how all of that's going to work together, how the rotation's going to work out. And again, can Mike Woodson coach them up and do the things that he's supposed to do to make this a good team, him and the entire coaching staff? Plus, you got to go through the schedule of the Big Ten and all your off-season or your non-conference games. And so with all of that, I think the sky's the limit. I really do. And to be in a preseason top 25 doesn't mean a whole lot to me. Doesn't mean anything. I don't think it should mean anything to you either. But you can take notes away from that. You can take some things out of that and say, well, I'm glad people notice what's happening. I'm glad that people are understanding, okay, Indiana's made some moves. Time to watch out for the Hoosiers this season. Maybe they'll be a little bit better this year. I already told you that college basketball is better when Indiana is better. Hopefully, we become better, and I think we will be. Folks like John Rothstein and others believe that is the case as well, being a top 20, top 25, wherever you want to put it. I am curious on, once the season does get here, what the what the true ranking is once the season starts coming up in November, where we start the season, got non-conference play, you get some of these bigger opponents, and hopefully we get off to a better start in non-conference play and not have to stress right out of the gate. But, man, that's not until late October, early November, and we'll worry about that when we get here. That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Look, I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. Thank you so much for another incredible week here on the show. If you're on audio, like the video if you can, or if you're follow it on audio, subscribe to us on audio, however you can do it on your platform. Be sure you never miss a new episode. If you're on the video version, you can like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel. We make a push towards 2,400 subscribers now on YouTube. So thank you so much for that. Become a part of it so you never miss a new episode. Comment below. I like to respond to you as much as I can. We have fun there as well. Have a great weekend. We'll see what good news or goody news comes from between now and our show on Monday. Have a great weekend. Until next time, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.